But there is a lot of uncertainty about the future, and people who are sort of challenged in their intuition will have a vague fear that something's going to happen. They don't know what, but maybe something will happen, you know. And of course, the internet feeds the rumors and the false information and so on. With respect to 2012, there are three main narratives about Earth changes that are happening now. My reading on it, I don't see any Earth changes happening at all that are significant for us going forward.
And we've been around long enough to know that we've had these predictions, and they've never happened. And they predict them again, and it doesn't happen. And it's just another in a series of these same predictions.
Well, there is a reason for that. The grip that this has on the human imagination, I see it as a kind of doomsday, apocalyptic doomsday scenarios as being a kind of defense mechanism against the anxiety that comes in with change.
Okay.
It's a defense mechanism because if you can pinpoint a certain date that you think the end of the world is going to happen, then you focus your attention on that date, and then when the date passes, then you can say, "Well, what a relief! Now we go back to business as usual." As if all our challenges and so on have gone away. But when we get to December 22nd, 2012, we're going to have pretty much the same challenges as we have today. It's not going to be. It's a continuity. It's a continuity of the things we have to deal with. Climate change, economic wealth inequity, depletion of natural resources, population growth, biodiversity loss. I mean, we've got a lot of big challenges that we have to face if we're going to have a sustainable future. And the jury's really out about whether or not we're going to get our ecological act together, or whether or not we're going to have some, civilization degradation because of that.
Right, because we still have flat earthers and foot draggers on that whole idea of warming.
That's right. That's right. People don't want to face that. They don't want to look at the real challenges. They rather look at imaginary ones.
Exactly.
Imaginary challenge is much easier to deal with than the real challenge.
Living in a fantasy world.
Let's look at some of the things that people are concerned about in terms of the negative fantasy for a second, because it's important to get that out of the way. There are three main negative narratives about Earth changes. The galactic alignment is one.
The fear of tilting the Earth. And all of that.
Well, I'll get into what that is in a second.
Okay.
And the second one is concern about solar flares, and the third is geomagnetic pole reversal, when the North and South poles switch.
Right.
Now, each one of those has a grain of truth to it, but it doesn't lead to the conclusions that people have reached about 2012. Take the galactic alignment, for example. The galactic alignment is a true thing that's really happening. It happens once every 26,000 years, and it's the result of the wobbling of the Earth on its axis. The Earth revolves and it sort of wobbles like a top.
That's what the yugas follow, that 26,000 year cycle.
Yes, I believe that's right. Every 26,000 years, there's a period where the Earth, the path of the Sun, and the center of the galaxy all get aligned. And that's what we're into now. And you say, well, what's going to happen when all these things align? And the answer is, again, nothing special, because this alignment is a very slow process. It takes 36 years for the whole progression, for the path to really cross the path of all of these things to align up into the path of the equator of the equator of the galaxy to actually be crossed. It takes 36 years because the precession of the equinoxes, when you look at the sky is going to shift by 1 degree every 72 years because of this wobble. And the positions of the stars are going to change 1 degree every 72 years. So it's a very, very slow process, and it's actually been underway for a long time. The most exact alignment we had with the center of the galaxy actually happened in 1998. So it was happening a few years before, it's going to happen a few years later. So nothing happened last year, 2011, on the winter solstice. We were approximating where we are, and 2013 is going to be the same thing. There was no effect on Earth from this alignment. So 2012, we have every reason to believe nothing is going to happen. No beam of energy is going to come out of the center of the galaxy to affect us because it's too far away. It's 25,000 to 28,000 light years away, the center of the galaxy. And all of these energies decrease as the square of the distance. so that they fall off inversely to the square of the distance, and just too far away for anything from the center of the galaxy to affect us. And there's no evidence that there's any energy emanating directly from the center of the galaxy toward Earth. So the galactic alignment is a symbolic thing that the Mayans used to how they got to the end of their calendar.
Point of reference.
It's a point of reference because it's kind of a symbolic thing. It's rebirth, whatever. You're reaching this end of this 26,000 year cycle. It's a good time to end the age and go on to the new age. But in terms of how the galactic alignment is going to affect Earth, short term is nada. There's no effect. There's no Earth weather, space weather effect on Earth from the galactic alignment at all.
Yeah.
And if there were, we would see evidence of changes that happen on Earth with this 26,000 year cycle. But we don't see anything in the fossil record that indicates there's any disturbance on Earth because of the precession of the equinoxes. Mm-hmm. And that's all it is.
So it's basically just another myth when it comes to what
it's taking a symbolic thing mm-hmm. and making it into a literal real threat, mm-hmm. where astronomically it has no legs. There's
right. It's
no astronomer,
like a cartoon character.
Yeah, no astronomer would say there's any threat at all from that. And that's what they all say, actually.
Yes.
So there aren't any astronomical doomsday prophecy people at all. Not a single one.
Right. That's what I've been reading also. Mm-hmm. So I totally agree with you.
So that's one area. The solar flares are very interesting because we have solar flares on a regular basis. Every 11 years there's a cycle, and we're in a cycle of increased solar flares. Solar flares are periods of the sun where you have different temperatures and different magnetic flux, and sometimes the sunspots that form,
they flare out.
The material flares out from the surface, and then sometimes it reaches Earth as a coronal mass ejection where particles get flung out from the sun and come hit Earth.
And they affect the internet and all kinds of different
Well,
things.
they have the potential of doing that, but our Earth is protected by a magnetic shield called the magnetosphere, which deflects it the same way that a rock will, when the water comes to hit the rock, the water will go around the rock. So when the waves come, they go around the Earth. Some of them get through, but not very many.
Right.
And we've been having all kinds of, we're in a period of solar maximum where we have more solar flares than usual. So the solar maximum does correspond with 2012. It's going to go on to 2013. But in terms of the intensity of these things, which is the really important thing, we're actually having fewer sunspots than normal. And they've happened all along for the past year or so, no major effect. Now it's possible one supernormal one could come, but the worst thing that would happen was lose power for a few days. That's
right.
All. Yeah. But the sun is not gonna belch out something to really destroy Earth anytime soon.
It's not going to just crumble or fall apart. No, it's not.
It's very stable. Very stable. The last thing is the geomagnetic pole reversal, and people are concerned that poles are going to switch and so on. The poles switch every 200,000 years on average. We haven't had one for 780,000 years, so we're kind of overdue, Yeah,
give or take a few.
The magnetic strength of the magnetic field is decreasing. It has been for 2,000 years. We've lost 10% since the 19th century. But still, we've got plenty of magnetic, envelope to protect us. And the worst case scenario is that the poles will reverse, the North Pole will become the South Pole, and there will be a period where
our water will go the opposite direction down the drain.
Yes, that's right, exactly. Opposite direction,
yeah.
But there's no record of any of the pole reversals that have happened in the past that they had any effect on life on Earth in terms of creating mass extinctions or anything like that. So we've had all of these in the past, and they really haven't. There's no record of these spikes of, you can see, well, this is the devastation that happened then. There's no devastation.
So bottom line, it's not the big concern.
Well, it's not going to happen for hundreds of years anyway, probably. And even if it happened tomorrow, which is very, very unlikely, the effects would be very minimal on our planet. Because, again, the magnetic, the pole reversals, the poles would reorganize themselves and become as strong as they were before. It would be a period of flux where they're in transition, which would be problematic, but it wouldn't last that long. Those are the main things that the myths of Earth changes are based on. If you look at it scientifically, none of those have any merit. There's no evidence at all that we're in any danger.